Intro, here's something that might surprise you. A woman often comes back not because she suddenly realized your worth, but because your silence made her feel something she wasn't ready to feel. The loss of control. When a man gives a woman distance, something shifts in here emotionally. She starts to question what you're thinking, whether you've moved on or if she misjudged your value, and that uncertainty, it can be powerful. See, most men panic when a woman pulls away. They chase. They text more. They try to fix things. But the more you chase, the less she feels the need to come back. Because deep down, what really draws a woman back isn't your words, your apologies, or your promises. It's the contrast between how she expected you to act and how you actually did. When you pull back calmly, when you stop fighting for her attention, she starts feeling something she didn't before. Curiosity, doubt, and even a little bit of fear. Now, this doesn't mean playing games. Giving her distance isn't about manipulating emotions. It's about restoring balance. It's about showing that your world doesn't revolve around her, that you're a man who values peace over chaos, dignity over desperation. And when a woman senses that kind of quiet confidence, it disrupts her emotional pattern. She starts replaying memories, wondering if she made the right choice. And before long, she starts coming back. I end this video. We're going to break down the real reasons women come back after you give them distance. I'm not here to sugarcoat or romanticize it. This is about understanding female psychology at a deeper level. Because when you know why she returns, you stop getting confused and you start moving with purpose. Welcome to the channel where we talk about female behavior, emotional power dynamics, and how to handle situations most men get wrong. If you've ever had a woman leave you, ignore you, or suddenly start acting cold, this is the breakdown you need to hear.
One, she feels the sudden loss of attention. Sudden loss of attention when you give a woman distance.
The very first thing she feels, whether she admits it or not, is the sudden loss of your attention, and that matters more than most men realize. You see, a woman doesn't just crave attention because she's needy. She craves it because attention is the emotional signal that tells her she still matters to you. When that signal goes quiet, her world feels different, something she was used to. Your messages, your calls, your interest suddenly disappears, and that change hits her deeper than she expects. At first, she might act like she doesn't care. She might even post more, laugh louder, or talk about being happier. But underneath all of that, there's a quiet discomfort growing because what she thought was guaranteed, your constant presence, no longer exists. And that small gap in attention, it's enough to make her start thinking. This is where a lot of men mess up. When they sense her pulling away, they rush in trying to fill that gap with reassurance or effort. But what they don't realize is that her attention wasn't fading because she needed more of them. It was fading because she needed to feel their absence. When you stop giving her what she was once getting easily, she's forced to notice the void. That's when the mind games start. Not because you're playing them, but because Hermond is. She starts replaying your last conversation. She wonders why you suddenly became so quiet. She checks if you viewed her story or liked her post. All of this happens quietly while she's pretending everything's fine. The truth is, attention becomes addictive when it's consistent. But when it stops, the withdrawal kicks in emotionally, not physically. The same way a person misses their morning coffee, a woman begins to miss the validation she used to get from your energy, and that's what pulls her back. Not guilt, not sudden love, but the uncomfortable realization that your attention wasn't as replaceable as she thought. 2. Distance disrupts her. Distance disrupts her emotional control. Emotional control. When a woman feels she's losing emotional control in a relationship, it shakes her more than she'll ever admit. Most women like to feel emotionally in charge, not in a manipulative way, but in a way that gives them stability. She wants to know where she stands with you, how much you care, and whether she can influence how you act or feel. That sense of emotional control gives her comfort. It reassures her that she still matters. But when you give her distance, all of that changes. Suddenly, she doesn't know where she stands anymore. She's used to reading your mood, sensing your energy, or getting a reaction from you. When she texts, you reply. When she pulls back, you chase. When she tests your patience, you try to prove your loyalty. That pattern gives her a sense of power, a feeling that she can predict you. Now imagine that pattern breaks. You stop responding instantly. You stop chasing when she pulls back. You stop explaining yourself, apologizing, or trying to fix things. You simply let her feel your distance without anger or drama. That's when she starts losing her emotional control. And that loss is what triggers her to come back. Because here's the truth. A woman feels safest when she understands her emotional impact on you. The moment she no longer does, she starts to feel uneasy. It's not about ego. It's about the sudden uncertainty. She begins wondering if you still care, if you've moved on, or if she misjudged how much power she really had over your emotions. That curiosity creates emotional tension, and tension creates attraction. This is why calm detachment is so powerful. You're not punishing her or trying to make her jealous. You're simply no longer giving her the emotional control she once relied on, and in doing so, you flip the dynamic. Your silence makes her curious. Again. 3. Your silence makes her curious. Again. And there's something powerful about silence, especially when it comes from a man she thought she had figured out. When you stop reaching out, stop explaining yourself, and stop trying to prove your worth, your silence becomes louder than anything you could say. It creates a kind of tension that pulls her attention right back toward you. See, most women expect men to react emotionally when they withdraw. She expects you to text her, to ask what went wrong, to try and win her back. That's the predictable behavior she's used to. But when she doesn't get that, when you go quiet and stay composed, her mind doesn't just rest. It races. She starts wondering what you're thinking. Did he move on? Did he lose interest? Is she seeing someone else? That silence forces her to fill in the blanks. And trust me, she will. Women are emotional thinkers by nature. When there's no communication, her imagination does the work. And ironically, that's when she starts missing you the most. Your silence also sends a powerful message about self-control. It tells her that you're not desperate for attention, that your peace means more to you than chasing validation. That confidence, that quiet strength is something women deeply respect, even if they never say it out loud. It reminds her that she's not the center of your world, and that realization hits harder than any words ever could. What you're doing without even saying a word is reintroducing mystery. You're no longer predictable. She can't read you. And when a woman can't read you, she wants to. She becomes curious about what you're up to, how you're feeling, and whether she still has a place in your life. That curiosity slowly transforms into emotional investment. Again, here's the key. Your silence only works if it comes from genuine calmness, not from passive-aggressive energy or manipulation. If you're sitting there counting the days, waiting for her to notice, she'll sense that energy. Women can feel when silence comes from insecurity rather than strength. Real silence is rooted in acceptance, in the understanding that you've done your part, and you're not chasing what doesn't align with your. She starts comparing you to other men. Peace. 4. She starts comparing you to their men. When you pull away and give a woman space, something interesting happens. She starts noticing how different you actually are. At first, she might distract herself with attention from other men, thinking she can easily move on. But that never lasts, because once the excitement fades, she begins to compare. And that comparison rarely works in other men's favor. Here's the truth. When a woman walks away, she often believes she's upgrading. She thinks the next guy will make her feel more understood, more appreciated, or more emotionally fulfilled. But most men don't carry the same energy as the one who stayed composed when she pulled away. Most men reveal their neediness fast. They overpraise, and overextend themselves just to keep her interested. And in that moment, she starts remembering you. Your distance gives her time to see what's really out there. And often what's out there is disappointing. She starts realizing how rare it was to have a man who didn't chase, who didn't beg, and who had the self-respect to step back when the energy shifted. That calm confidence leaves an impression that lingers even when she's trying to forget you. This is why distance works better than persuasion. You don't have to tell her you're different. She'll discover it on her own. The moment she interacts with other men who lack emotional control, who fold under pressure, or who try too hard to impress her, she naturally starts comparing. And comparison always triggers reflection. She starts asking herself, did I let goof something real? Did I misjudge him? That's when the regret begins to creep in. Because women don't fall in love with words. They fall in love with how Amen makes them feel. And your ability to detach respectfully without bitterness or ego makes her feel something no one else does. Safety, mixed with admiration. She starts missing the way you carried yourself, the way you handled conflict, or how you didn't react to her emotional ups and downs. Now, this doesn't mean she'll admit this out loud. She might act like she's moved on, but deep down she's doing mental math, comparing how it felt to be around you versus how it feels now. And often that quiet realization is what brings her back. Because while attention from other men might feed her ego, it doesn't feed her emotions the same way your strength and composure did. 5. The energy shift. The energy shift changes the power dynamic. 500 words. When you give a woman distance, you do more than just stop talking to her. You change the energy between you. Most men don't realize how much energy they pour into a woman when they're chasing, explaining, or trying to win her back. That energy gives her power. She becomes the one who decides how the story goes while you wait around hoping she'll choose you again. But when you stop feeding her that energy, when you detach, the power dynamic begins to shift completely. Let's say you were texting her often, trying to stay on her radar. You were always available, always checking in, always showing that you cared. But once you sensed she was pulling away, you stopped. Not out of spite, but because you finally understood your worth. Days go by and she starts to notice the silence. That's when the shift begins. Before she had emotional control, she could predict that no matter how distant she acted, you'd still show up. But now, your absence feels unfamiliar. You're no longer feeding her with reassurance, validation, or attention. You've taken back your energy, and that's when she begins to feel what she's been taking for granted. This energy shift is subtle but powerful. It doesn't just make her miss you, it makes her rethink her position. She's no longer the one being pursued. She's now the one wondering if she lost something valuable. The same woman who once felt she had options suddenly starts to sense that you might be the one she can't replace. And here's the beauty of it. You didn't have to argue, convince, or beg. You simply changed your energy. Because when you stop chasing, you become the prize again. You remind her that your attention is not free, it's earned. That your presence is valuable, and your energy is not for those who don't reciprocate it. 6. Your absence creates emotional confusion. One thing men often overlook is how deeply a woman's emotions are tied to consistency. When she's used to hearing from you, your messages, your calls, your presence, it becomes part of her emotional rhythm. Even if she acted distant or uninterested, that consistency still gave her comfort. You told her, he's still there if I want him. But when that rhythm stops, when your presence suddenly disappears, it creates confusion she didn't expect. At first, she might pretend not to notice. She'll stay silent, trying to convince herself that she's fine without you. But the longer your absence lasts, the more it unsettles her emotionally. She starts questioning her own feelings, wondering why she suddenly cares about someone she thought she was done with. That emotional confusion is what often drives her to come back. Not logic, not guilt, but the discomfort of not understanding what she feels anymore. You see, when a woman distances herself, she expects to feel free. She expects peace, relief, or maybe even excitement about her decision. But when instead she feels uneasy, that's when she starts realizing your absence affects her more than she thought. That confusion comes from the emotional contrast between what she expected to feel and what she actually feels. And that's where your calm distance becomes powerful. You're not trying to prove anything. You're not arguing or reminding her what you did for her. You're simply gone mentally, emotionally, and physically. That quietness gives her space to confront their own emotions without you cushioning the blow. And trust me, that space is uncomfortable for her. This confusion can make her do things she doesn't even fully understand. Watching your stories, asking mutual friends about you, or trying to start random conversations. Those are small ways to relieve the emotional pressure your absence created. Because when a woman can't make sense of her feelings, she looks for something familiar. And that familiarity is you. But here's the crucial part. You must remain grounded. When she starts to appear, don't rush to comfort her confusion with old habits. Let her sit in it for a while. Thatcho attraction rebuilds through emotional imbalance that she has to solve on her own. Your absence is what created that tension. And that tension is what reignites her emotional interest. So if she's suddenly showing up again, don't assume it's random. It's emotional dissonance, her heart trying to reconcile the calm she expected with the emptiness she actually feels. You've disrupted the emotional safety she built by stepping back, and now she's drawn to the very presence she once overlooked. She comes back to test if you've really moved on. 7. She comes back to test if you've really moved on. Here's one truth most men don't realize. When a woman comes back after you've given her distance, she's not always returning because she's ready to rebuild something real. Often she's coming back to test you to see if you've really moved on or if you're still emotionally tied to her. It's not always conscious, but it's absolutely intentional. Women do this when they start feeling like they've lost emotional control over a man they once had wrapped around their finger. When you were chasing her, she knew she could count on your energy. You were available, attentive, and always shopping she'd choose you again. But when you disappeared, it forced her to face a harsh reality. You might not be there anymore. That's when her mind begins to spiral. She starts wondering if you're seeing someone else, if your feelings changed or if she misjudged how much she meant to you. And that's where the test begins. She might reach out casually. A "hey, how have you been" message, a reaction to your story, or even a call out of nowhere. On the surface, it seems innocent, but underneath it, she's measuring your reaction. She wants to see if you'll drop everything for her again or if you've truly detached. How you respond in that moment determines whether she respects you more or falls back into her old patterns. Here's where many men fail. They see her message as a sign she wants to get back together. They rush in, open up, and start giving her all their energy again. And just like that, the power dynamic resets. She gets the validation she came for, confirms that she still has access to you, and then disappears again. Conclusion. Here's a truth most men don't like to admit. Sometimes the best way to get a woman back is to stop trying. When you pull away, when you stop explaining, when you stop fighting for her attention, something powerful happens. She finally feels the weight of your absence, and that's what wakes her up. Because a woman doesn't come back when you convince her. She comes back when she feels the difference. Your silence, your distance, your calm energy, they'll create a version of you she can't easily replace. And that's when her curiosity, confusion, and emotional pull start dragging her right back toward you. But here's the controversial part. Not every woman who comes back deserves another chance. Sometimes her return is just a reaction, not a realization. You have to know the difference. If she's coming back out of fear of losing control, she'll test you. If she's coming back because she's truly grown, she'll show it through effort, humility, and consistency. So the next time she appears after you've given her distance, don't rush. Watch her actions, not her words. Stay calm, stay grounded, and remember your energy is the real prize. When a man learns to master that, women don't just return, they respect him. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a woman come back after you gave her space? What happened next? Drop your experience in the comments. I'll be reading and responding. Let's talk about it.